The Warlord gave humanity 6 minutes to surrender our Mapmaker. Not our generals. Not our weapons. Not our president. Asterisk asterisk our Mapmaker dot asterisk asterisk. On the screen above the command chamber, Raul Kirmada stood taller than any human in the room, wrapped in black armor and violet metal. Behind him, his fleet filled the darkness around Earth like a second sky. 6 minutes, he said. Give me Janet Miller, and your western continent survives. Nobody spoke. 5 minutes, 48 seconds. Tom Hayes stared at the countdown. Beside him, Janet watched the alien warlord with an expression so calm it made Tom uneasy. Raul continued. He has mapped your mountain passes, underground reservoirs, military roads, and orbital approaches. I want her alive. I want her obedient. And I want her maps. Tom finally answered. You crossed 3 systems to threaten a planet for 1 civilian. Raul smiled. She is not a civilian. The transmission ended. The room erupted. Generals shouted about orbital defenses. Intelligence officers demanded evacuation routes. Engineers pulled up weapon systems that had never been tested in combat. Tom heard none of it. He was watching Janet. She was still staring at the blank screen. Why you? He asked. Janet finally turned. Because he thinks maps are about where things are. Tom frowned. Aren't they? A tiny smile appeared on her face. Not the good ones. The countdown continued. 4 minutes, 52 seconds. Tom lowered his voice. Janet, if we surrender you, you know what happens. Yes. You could be interrogated. Yes. They could torture you. I know. And you are standing here looking like you already know how this ends. Janet looked toward the tactical display. Raul's fleet had surrounded Earth in 3 layers. Their cruisers controlled the orbital lanes. Their armored invasion ships waited behind them. Humanity had lost every major battle in the last 11 days. Janet studied the formation. Then she said quietly, They made one mistake. What? They brought me their maps. Tom followed her gaze. The alien fleet routes glowed across the display. He didn't understand. What are you seeing? A pattern. 3 minutes. The room fell silent as the countdown became audible. Raul appeared again. Humanity has 2 minutes. Tom stepped toward the console. If we refuse? Raul's expression hardened. I begin with the coastal cities. The transmission ended. Tom looked at Janet. We need another option. We have one. His eyes narrowed. What? Janet looked directly at him. Give me to him. Tom stared. No. Listen to me. No. You need to trust me. I trust you. That's why I'm not handing you to a warlord. Janet stepped closer. You think he's asking for me because I'm valuable? He is. No. He's asking because he believes I'm useful. Tom didn't see the difference. Janet pointed toward the alien battle map. Raul thinks a map is a picture of terrain. He doesn't understand that every map contains choices. What choices? Where an army can move, where it can't, what it needs, what it fears, what it believes is safe. She tapped the alien fleet formation. And right now I need to know what he believes. Tom stared at her. You want to be captured? I want him to think he captured me. The countdown reached 1 minute. Tom's stomach tightened. You've planned this? For months. Why didn't you tell me? Because if you knew, Raul might know. That answer silenced him. Janet reached into her jacket and removed a folded piece of paper. Tom recognized it immediately. It was one of her hand-drawn terrain maps. Across the surface were tiny marks, almost invisible unless you knew where to look. What are these? Errors. Tom looked at her. Errors? Not mine. She folded the map again. His. The final 30 seconds appeared on the display. Janet walked toward the center of the chamber. Open the channel. Tom hesitated. Then he did. Raul's face appeared. Your answer? Janet looked straight into his glowing blue eyes. I'll go. Raul smiled. Tom felt a cold knot form in his chest. Wise, the warlord said. Janet continued. But I have conditions. Raul laughed. You are in no position to negotiate. I don't need to negotiate. She leaned toward the camera. You need me. The warlord's smile disappeared. What do you want? Access to your strategic maps. Raul considered it, then laughed again. You will have access to everything you need. Janet smiled. That is exactly what I wanted to hear. The channel closed. Tom grabbed her arm. You've lost your mind. No. She looked at him. I found the way inside. Hours later, Janet walked alone through the alien boarding corridor. Human guards had surrendered their weapons. Alien soldiers surrounded her. Raul had ordered that she be brought directly to his flagship. The ship was enormous. Its corridors were built for bodies much larger than hers, with black metallic walls and violet illumination running beneath the floor. Every few steps, Janet noticed a camera. She counted them. Not because she was afraid. Because she was mapping the ship. At the end of the corridor, two massive doors opened. Raul waited inside. Up close he was even more intimidating. He stood over 7 feet tall, his armored shoulders nearly filling the doorway. His icy, blue eyes studied her. You are smaller than I expected. Janet looked up. You are louder than I expected. One of the guards moved forward. Raul raised a hand. Leave us. The soldiers obeyed. The doors closed. Raul circled Janet slowly. You understand why you are here? To draw maps. To win my war. Janet remained silent. Raul stopped in front of her. You will chart every human defensive position, every mountain pass, every underground facility, every supply route. And if I refuse, your cities burn. Janet nodded. Then I suppose I should cooperate. Raul smiled. There it was. The reaction he wanted. Fear. Submission. He had no idea that Janet was giving him exactly what he wanted to see. Raul led her into the war room. The chamber was enormous. A holographic projection of Earth occupied the center, rotating slowly above a circular table. Human continents glowed beneath layers of alien military data. Janet stopped. She looked at the projection. Then she saw something that made her heart race. Not fear. Opportunity. Raul pointed to the western continent. Your first task. A route appeared. His invasion corridor. Thousands of armored units would move through a narrow valley toward the human capital. Janet studied it. Why this route? Raul looked pleased. Because our intelligence says it is the fastest path. Janet stared at the terrain. She recognized the valley. She knew its soil composition. She knew what happened during the rainy season. And she knew the alien data was wrong. But she didn't correct it. Instead, she touched the hologram. I can improve this. Raul leaned closer. How? Janet moved the route slightly. Your army will lose 3 hours here. Why? The terrain. Raul studied her adjustment. Then fix it. Janet did. She changed one contour. Then another. A tiny geological correction. Nothing more. Raul watched carefully. You are very precise. I have to be. He smiled. You understand your value. Janet looked at him. Yes. Raul turned away. Tomorrow you begin mapping the invasion. Janet watched him walk toward the command platform. Raul. He stopped. She pointed toward the holographic Earth. You should move your western reserves. He turned. Why? Janet gave him a calm expression. Because if I were defending Earth, that's where I would attack you. Raul laughed. You're advising me how to defeat you. No. Janet's eyes remained fixed on the map. I'm showing you how I think. Raul smiled. He thought he had just learned something valuable. Janet knew better. She had just made him ask his first question. And questions were more valuable than maps. That night, Janet was locked inside a small room aboard the flagship. She sat on the edge of the bed. A camera watched her from the ceiling. She ignored it. From her sleeve, she removed a tiny strip of transparent material. On it were 6 hand-drawn symbols. The first represented the fleet. The second represented the command hierarchy. The third represented supply routes. The fourth represented Raul. She added a fifth. Then a sixth. The final symbol was a small circle around the words. Asterisk asterisk first lie dot asterisk asterisk. Janet looked toward the camera. Then she whispered, "Now let's see how much you trust your own maps." Across the flagship, Raul stood in his private command chamber. He reviewed Janet's first alterations. Every change was subtle. Every recommendation appeared logical. Every route looked safer. He smiled. The human mapmaker was already working. He had captured the woman who knew Earth better than anyone alive. He believed he had just acquired the weapon that would finish humanity. He did not realize something far more dangerous had happened. He had just invited humanity's best cartographer into the heart of his empire. And she had come willingly. Janet's first night aboard the Kirmada flagship taught her something important. Raul Kirmada trusted technology more than people. That made him dangerous. It also made him predictable. At 0500 ship time, the door opened and 2 armored guards escorted Janet back into the war room. She carried nothing except the small stylus Raul had given her. The stylus was almost insulting. A conqueror had taken humanity's finest mapmaker and handed her a pen. Raul was already waiting beside the holographic table. Earth rotated above it, surrounded by layers of military information. Red lines marked invasion corridors. Purple symbols represented Kirmadan fleets. Blue points identified human defenses. Raul placed one massive hand on the table. "You have 12 hours. For what?" "Give me a road that gets my army from the western landing zone to the human capital." Janet studied the projection. "How many divisions?" 24 armored divisions, 6 aerial wings, 3 siege groups. "And supply?" "Automatic." Janet looked at him. "Nothing is automatic." His eyes narrowed. "Explain." "Your army needs fuel, ammunition, replacement parts, food, medical support, and communications. If your route ignores any of those, your army doesn't advance. It simply arrives somewhere and waits to die." For the first time, Raul looked impressed. "You understand war." "I understand maps." He gestured toward the table. "Then prove it." Janet began working. She moved slowly. Raul watched every movement. She corrected elevation lines, adjusted river crossings, marked stable ground, and shifted several routes by a few kilometers. Most of the changes were real. A few were not. The first false correction was so small that even Janet could barely see it. A plateau that was actually solid became unstable ground on her private notes. A dry valley became slightly wetter. A narrow pass became wider. She did not yet change the final route. She was learning something more important. Raul's reactions. Whenever Janet altered a route, he asked why. Whenever she mentioned a military weakness, he gave away information. Whenever she suggested a location, he revealed which commander controlled it. Janet was not simply drawing. She was listening. By midday, she had learned the names of 7 Kirmadan commanders. By evening, she knew where 3 reserve fleets were stationed. By night, she had discovered the location of Raul's primary supply depot. None of it had been marked on the map. None of it had needed to be. Raul himself had told her. He just did not know it. Kira noticed. The alien lieutenant stood silently near the far wall throughout the session. Unlike Raul, she did not watch the hologram. She watched Janet. Finally, Kira spoke. "Why did you move that ridge?" Janet looked at her. "Because it is wrong. Our geological scans disagree." "Then your scans are wrong." Kira stepped closer. "Human arrogance survived longer than your armies." Janet gave her a faint smile. "So did human curiosity." Raul raised one hand. "Enough." Kira stepped back. Raul turned toward Janet. "You will use our scans." "I will use whatever is accurate." His jaw tightened. But he said nothing. Janet returned to the map. That was the first time she saw it. A black circle. No military designation. Janet touched it. "What is this?" Raul's expression changed. Only slightly. But Janet saw it. "Nothing." "Then why is it classified?" "It is irrelevant to your assignment." Janet removed her hand. "Of course." She did not ask again. That was important. People reveal more when you stop asking questions. 2 hours later, Raul left the room. Kira remained. You saw something, Kira said. Janet continued working. I see many things. The black marker. Janet looked up. What about it? You were curious. I am a mapmaker. Kira studied her. You wanted me to notice that you were curious. Janet's expression remained calm. No. Kira leaned closer. Then what do you want? Janet looked directly into the alien's pale eyes. To go home. It was the safest lie she had told all day. Kira walked away. Janet waited until the doors closed. Then she changed the map. Not the terrain. The military network. She traced the supply routes she had learned from Raul. Then the fleet positions. Then the communication relays. Then the command hierarchy. She connected them with thin lines. One by one. A shape began to appear. The Kirmadan invasion wasn't a collection of separate armies. It was a single machine. And every machine had a point where it could break. Janet found 3. Then 4. Then 12. Her pulse quickened. She had expected weaknesses. She had not expected so many. Raul's empire was enormous. But enormous systems had enormous dependencies. Destroy one relay and a fleet lost coordination. Block one supply corridor and an entire armored group stalled. Cut one command route and 3 divisions waited for orders. Janet saved the information to a tiny encrypted memory strip hidden inside her sleeve. Then she heard footsteps. She immediately restored the original map. Raul entered. You have made progress. Janet turned. I have. Show me. She brought up the invasion route. The path crossed a broad region of what appeared to be bedrock. Raul nodded. This. Your recommendation? Janet pointed to the route. Your armored columns should move here. Why? Because your weight will be supported. Raul smiled. And the alternative? Janet deliberately paused. There is another route. Where? South. She displayed a second corridor. This is shorter. Raul studied it. Then why didn't you recommend it? Because your army would be exposed. Raul considered the 2 routes. Then he made exactly the decision Janet expected. The first route. Janet lowered her eyes. Wise. Raul turned away. He did not see her expression. He did not understand that the first route was not simply safer. It was the route she needed him to choose. Before he left, Raul stopped. You are adapting quickly. Janet looked at him. You are giving me a lot to work with. His eyes narrowed. What does that mean? Nothing. Raul left. Janet waited. Then she whispered to herself. One mistake. She opened her hidden memory strip. The Kirmada network appeared. She had mapped the enemy in less than 2 days. But the black circle still bothered her. It was the only thing Raul refused to discuss. And if a warlord was hiding something on a map, Janet had learned long ago that it was usually more important than everything he was willing to show. The next morning, she requested geological records for the western continent. Raul approved them immediately. That was another mistake. Janet spent 6 hours studying the data. Then she found it. The region marked as stable bedrock contained enormous underground salt deposits. Under pressure, the surface could remain solid for years. Until something heavy enough crossed it. Then the crust could fracture. An armored army could sink through. Janet stared at the geological model. The trap was already there. She didn't need to build it. She only needed Raul to believe it was safe. She opened the terrain map. Her stylus hovered above the western route. One small adjustment. One false contour. One altered density reading. That was all. But Janet stopped. She remembered Tom's warning. If Raul discovered the deception too early, humanity would lose everything. She needed more than a battlefield trap. She needed the entire invasion. So she made the alteration smaller. Almost invisible. Then she added another. And another. Each one looked like an innocent correction. Together they created a lie. A perfect lie. The western route appeared to be the safest corridor on Earth. Janet leaned back. For the first time since her capture, she allowed herself to smile. Then the door opened. Kira stood there. You have been working all night. Janet closed the map. I had work to finish. Kira looked at the table. May I see? Janet stepped aside. Kira studied the terrain. You changed the geological density. Correct. Why? Because the original data was inaccurate. Kira looked at Janet. Are you sure? Janet held her gaze. Completely. Kira remained silent. Then she said something that made Janet's stomach tighten. You are the first prisoner I have ever met who looks happier after being captured. Janet said nothing. Kira walked away. The door closed. Janet waited. Then she looked at the hidden black circle on the original map. Her smile disappeared. She zoomed in. The black circle wasn't beneath the battlefield. It was beneath the entire continent. A vast underground structure was hidden there. And suddenly Janet understood why Raul wanted Earth. He wasn't trying to conquer the planet. He was looking for something. Something buried beneath it. Something important enough to hide from his own officers. Janet stared at the coordinates. Then she whispered the words she had been waiting to say since the moment she surrendered. Thank you, Raul. She saved the location. Because now she knew what the warlord really wanted. And she knew exactly where to make him look. The first Kirmada tank disappeared at 8:17. 1 second it was moving across what every sensor aboard the flagship identified as solid bedrock. The next, the ground opened beneath it. The armored vehicle dropped without a sound. Then the screaming began. Janet watched from the command gallery as the battlefield projection erupted with red warning symbols. Terrain failure, an officer shouted. Raul stepped toward the holographic table. Impossible. Another marker vanished. Then another. Then 6 more. The Western Invasion Corridor, the safest road in the entire region according to the Kirmadan tactical system, was collapsing beneath the army. Raul's enormous hand slammed onto the table. Stop the advance. The order traveled through the command network. Too late. 24 armored divisions were already moving. The lead columns had entered the basin. The surface looked like ancient stone. It wasn't. Beneath a thin crust lay enormous salt deposits, weakened by centuries of pressure and hidden beneath layers of mineral dust. The weight of the Kirmadan machines broke the crust. Vehicles plunged into white-gray pits. Others tilted sideways as the ground fractured. Heavy artillery units sank until only their upper weapons remained above the surface. Raul stared at the destruction. How? Nobody answered. His officers were terrified. Their sensors had confirmed the terrain. Their satellites had confirmed it. Their geological archives had confirmed it. Every system said the ground was stable. Every system had been wrong. Raul turned slowly. His eyes found Janet. She stood several meters away, calm beneath the blue light of the command room. You. Janet didn't move. You altered the map. Raul's voice was quiet now. That was more dangerous than shouting. Janet looked at the battlefield. I corrected it. You lied. I gave you the information you wanted. You knew this would happen. Janet met his eyes. I knew you would choose that route. For a moment nobody moved. Then Raul laughed. It wasn't amusement. It was disbelief. You think this changes the war? No. Janet's answer surprised him. It changes the battle. Raul stepped closer. You are going to explain yourself. I already did. He grabbed the edge of the table. Explain. Janet pointed toward the battlefield. You wanted the fastest route. Yes. You wanted your armored columns protected from human artillery. Yes. You wanted a path that looked defensible on your tactical system. Raul stared at her. Janet continued. So I gave you one. Kira, standing near the command platform, looked from Janet to the battlefield. Her expression changed. She understood something Raul hadn't. Janet had not simply changed the map. She had changed the way Raul made his decision. Kira stepped forward. Warlord. Raul ignored her. Bring the human prisoners. Janet remained still. Raul pointed toward her. She goes to the interrogation chamber. Kira hesitated. That may be a mistake. Raul turned. You doubt me? I doubt her. Janet looked at Kira. For the first time, she saw something almost like respect in the alien lieutenant's eyes. Good. Kira was learning. The guards moved toward Janet. She allowed them to take her. Again. She never resisted. She never begged. She never looked frightened. He believed it meant she was defeated. It meant she was exactly where she needed to be. The interrogation chamber was smaller than the war room. Raul entered alone. The door sealed behind him. Janet sat across from him at a metal table. You sabotaged my invasion. No. You forged geological information. Yes. You admit it. I admit I changed your map. Raul leaned forward. Why? Janet said nothing. Why did you do it? Still nothing. Raul's eyes narrowed. You think silence makes you powerful? No. Then what does? Janet looked at him. Knowing what the other person will do before they do it. Raul smiled coldly. You believe you know me. I know your army. That is not the same thing. It is when you command it. Raul stood. You are a clever human. He walked around the table. But cleverness has limits. Janet watched him. Everyone has limits. He stopped behind her. You included. Janet smiled faintly. Yes. Raul returned to his seat. Then tell me something. What? Why the western route? Janet looked at him. Because you needed it. Raul frowned. Needed it for what? Janet said nothing. He stared at her for several seconds. Then he understood. Not completely. But enough to become suspicious. You wanted my army in that basin. Yes. Why? Janet leaned back. Because you have been trying to surround Earth. Raul said nothing. And now your army is exactly where I wanted it. He studied her. You think an ambush can defeat me? No. Then what? Janet's expression became serious. I don't need to defeat your army. Raul waited. I only need to know where it will go. The words hung between them. Raul slowly sat down. What did you map? Janet smiled. That is the question you should have asked 2 days ago. Outside the chamber, Kira heard the final sentence through the partially open security channel. She immediately went to the command deck. Seal all communication routes, she ordered. The officers looked at her. Why? Because the human has access to our network. One officer laughed nervously. She has access to the tactical maps. Kira looked toward the interrogation chamber. No. She has access to the fleet routes. No. The officer frowned. Then what? Kira whispered. She has access to the decisions behind them. On the battlefield, the human resistance finally moved. For 3 days they had remained silent. No artillery. No aircraft. No counterattack. Raul's commanders believed humanity had been broken. They were wrong. The first human drones appeared along the southern ridge. Then another group emerged from underground shelters. Then artillery batteries opened fire from positions the Kirmadan maps had marked as abandoned. Raul's officers scrambled. Enemy forces. Where? Everywhere. The battlefield projection filled with blue markers. Janet had placed them there. Not physically. Strategically. Every human unit had been positioned according to the Kirmadan army's expected movements. Raul watched the display. His expression changed. They knew. Kira answered quietly. They knew because she told them. Raul turned toward her. How? Kira looked at the map. She has been drawing our army since she arrived. Raul's eyes hardened. Impossible. Kira pointed. Look. The holographic display expanded. Routes appeared. Supply corridors. Reserve positions. Communication relays. Command centers. One after another, the entire Kirmadan military structure appeared. Raul stared. That information is classified. Janet's voice came from the doorway. So is your geological data. Raul turned. The guard stood behind her. Janet walked back into the room. She looked at the holographic network. You made the same mistake with everything. Raul's voice dropped. What mistake? You assumed I was studying your maps. She touched the display. I was studying you. A silence settled over the room. Janet highlighted a red line. This is your Western Supply Corridor. Another. Your Northern Reserve. Another. Your Emergency Retreat Route. Another. Your Command Relay. Raul stared. You couldn't have learned all this. I didn't. Janet looked directly at him. You showed me. She pointed to the dozens of conversations, orders, fleet adjustments, and tactical decisions that had been recorded by the ship's own systems. Every time you explained why a route mattered, you told me what you valued. She moved her hand. Every time you changed a fleet position, you told me what you feared. Another movement. Every time you rejected an option, you showed me what you believed. Raul said nothing. Janet stepped closer. You thought you were teaching me how to fight your war. Her voice became quieter. You were teaching me how to end it. Suddenly, an officer rushed into the chamber. Warlord. Raul turned. Our Western forces are requesting extraction. Send reinforcements. We can't. Why? The southern corridor is blocked. Then use the eastern route. The officer froze. That route is compromised. Raul stared. How? The officer looked at Janet. She mapped it. Raul slowly turned back. Janet didn't smile. She didn't need to. The first layer of her plan was complete. The salt flats had trapped the army. The human ambush had cut the escape routes. But the real trap was only beginning. Raul looked at the enormous tactical map. Then he saw something he had missed. Every Kirmada unit on the battlefield was moving toward the same central region. Not because Janet had ordered them. Because Raul had. Every decision he had made over the previous 2 days had pushed his army into a single formation. A formation Janet had designed without ever commanding a soldier. Raul's face went still. You arranged this. Janet shook her head. No. She looked at the map. You did. Raul stared at her. And for the first time since he had invaded Earth, the warlord looked afraid. Because he finally understood the truth. He had not captured humanity's Mapmaker. He had brought her into the center of his army. And she had been drawing the battlefield around him the entire time. The first thing Raul heard was not an explosion. It was silence. Across the command deck, thousands of red symbols had stopped moving. His army was frozen. Not destroyed. Not retreating. Frozen. Raul stared at the battlefield projection as the truth finally assembled itself. Every road his army could use was blocked. Every safe route was covered. Every escape corridor led toward another human ambush. He slowly turned toward Janet. You planned this. Janet looked at the map. No. Raul stepped closer. Then explain it. You planned it. 3 hours earlier, his invasion had looked unstoppable. 24 armored divisions had crossed into the western basin. Siege carriers followed behind them. Atmospheric fighters filled the sky. His commanders reported almost no organized human resistance. Raul believed humanity was finally broken. Then the ground opened. The first armored carrier disappeared into the salt flats. Then another. Then another. The surface fractured beneath the weight of the advancing columns, exposing vast fields of pale salt and unstable mineral crust. And while Raul's army struggled to escape, human forces appeared from the ridges. They had been waiting. Not for the invasion. For the exact moment when the invasion became trapped. Raul ordered his commanders to pull back. That was when the second trap closed. The western route was blocked. The northern corridor was under fire. The eastern passage had been mined. The southern route led into a canyon occupied by human artillery. Raul's army had 4 directions to choose from. Janet had prepared all 4. Back inside the command ship, Raul watched his finest officers scramble to recover control. Open a fleet corridor, he ordered. An officer hesitated. We cannot. Why? The fleet corridor was rerouted yesterday. Raul turned. By whom? The officer looked at Janet. Raul's jaw tightened. Restore the original route. We cannot. Why? Our navigation network no longer recognizes it as safe. Janet finally spoke. Because your own system learned to trust the changes I made. Raul stared at her. You infected my navigation network. No. She touched the holographic table. I taught it a new map. Raul's fist struck the table. You think this is victory? Janet looked at him. No. He enlarged the battlefield. This is containment. Raul understood why. They want my surrender. Janet shook her head. They want you to move. Why? Because your army is not the target. The room went silent. Janet expanded the map beneath the western continent. A hidden structure appeared. The black circle. The secret location Raul had refused to explain. Janet had found it. How did you access this? Raul demanded. You showed me. I never gave you those coordinates. No. Janet pointed toward the command network. You gave me the routes leading to them. Supply corridors. Underground tunnels. Military staging grounds. Energy relays. Raul's secret facility sat at the center. Janet had followed his forces backward until the hidden structure revealed itself. Raul stared. That facility is classified. So is your invasion plan. You don't understand what is beneath it. Janet looked at him. I understand that you crossed 3 systems to get here. She paused. You spent more ships and soldiers on Earth than you used to conquer 2 other worlds. Another pause. And you were willing to threaten entire human cities just to get one Mapmaker. Raul's eyes narrowed. You. Yes. You were the reason I came. Janet nodded. No. He looked at the hidden facility. I was the reason you showed me where you were going. Why the Salt Flats? Raul asked. Janet smiled. Because you needed somewhere your army could not turn around. You could have destroyed them. We could. Then why didn't you? Because I needed them alive. For what? Janet did not answer. Instead, she turned to the communications officer. Send the signal. The officer pressed the control. Across Earth, hidden human units activated. Not thousands. Millions. The battlefield map changed. What Raul thought was an isolated resistance network became a planet-wide system. Human forces moved at the same time. Not toward the trapped Kirmadan army. Toward the Empire's infrastructure. Orbital stations. Fuel depots. Relay towers. Transit gates. Repair yards. Raul watched in disbelief. You mapped my entire logistics network. Janet said nothing. You used my command system to identify every weakness. Still nothing. You never wanted my invasion route. Janet finally looked at him. I wanted your entire war. Raul's expression hardened. Then you will die with it. He raised his hand. Weapon systems across the flagship came online. Warning lights filled the command deck. Kira stepped forward. My lord. Raul ignored her. Target Earth. Janet did not move. Kira stared at Raul. If you fire, you will destroy the facility. Raul froze. Janet watched him. Kira continued. And your army is still trapped on the surface. Raul lowered his hand. Janet had predicted that too. He stepped toward the table. That's why you can't attack. Raul looked at her. You think you have won? No. She touched one final point. A small blue marker appeared beneath the Kirmadan flagship. Raul's eyes widened. What is that? Your escape route. He looked toward the officer. Is that ours? The officer checked. Then his face went pale. No. Whose is it? The officer swallowed. Human. Silence. Janet looked at Raul. You taught me something when you captured me. What? You don't protect what you don't value. Raul's expression hardened. And what did I value? Janet pointed toward the hidden facility. That. She expanded the image. The facility was not a weapons depot. It was a gateway. An enormous structure buried beneath the continent. Raul had come to Earth because controlling that gateway would let him move his empire's armies faster than any conventional fleet. Janet had discovered it. And now she had something better than the gateway. He had the map of every world connected to it. Raul stared at the network. You cannot use those coordinates. We don't need to. Janet moved her hand. Human forces had already surrounded the gateway. Raul's face went pale. You're going to destroy it. No. Janet looked at him. We're going to take it. The warlord stepped backward. If you take that gateway, my empire will be cut in half. Janet nodded. That is the idea. Raul looked at her with rage and disbelief. You allowed yourself to be captured. Yes. You let me take you aboard my flagship. Yes. You said days pretending to work for me. Yes. And all that time you were mapping my forces. Janet's eyes remained steady. Not just your forces. She touched the holographic display. Every Kirmadan territory it appeared. Every military route. Every supply corridor. Every strategic gate. Every weakness. The entire empire was visible. Raul stared at the map. You mapped everything. Janet shook her head. Almost. She highlighted one final region. A vast area beyond the Kirmadan frontier. What is that? Janet looked at him. Part of your empire you never told your commanders about. Raul went still. Kira stepped closer. That sector is forbidden. Janet looked at her. Exactly. Raul's voice became quiet. How did you find it? Janet smiled. Because you were afraid someone would. A tremor shook the command deck. An officer shouted. Human forces have entered the gateway. Raul turned toward the viewport. Far below, the buried structure opened. A column of blue, white light rose from Earth into orbit. Human ships emerged from hidden launch points. One after another. Then hundreds. Then thousands. Raul looked back at Janet. You planned this from the beginning. Janet shook her head. No. Raul frowned. I planned for you to make mistakes. She stepped closer. You made more than I expected. Raul looked at the map one last time. The entire war had become visible. Not to him. To her. He finally understood. He had not captured humanity's Mapmaker. He had brought her into the center of his empire. And she had been drawing the battlefield around him the entire time. Raul's voice was barely audible. Why did you surrender? Janet looked directly into his eyes. Because you would never have shown me your empire if I had asked. The answer broke something inside him. His army was trapped. His gateway was captured. His supply network was exposed. And his empire's greatest secret was now in human hands. Raul looked at the woman he had believed was a defeated prisoner. For the first time, he understood who had been holding whom. Janet walked toward the command doors. Kira watched her go. Where are you going? Janet stopped. Home. Kira looked toward the battlefield. And what happens to him? Janet glanced back at Raul. That depends. On what? Janet looked at the map. Whether he finally learns to read one. The doors opened. Janet walked out. Behind her, Raul remained beneath the glowing projection of his collapsing empire. The warlord had come to Earth believing he would conquer a planet. Instead, he had delivered his entire empire to the one human who understood that the most dangerous weapon in war was never the weapon itself. It was knowing exactly where to draw the line.